Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HCC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
This experience makes them think more deeply about how they're connected.
The greatest thing about being an author is you get to create your own world.
You're no longer living day to day, you're living for the future.
Today on Spotlight, how one group is working to change the perception of North City. Plus, new research on the long-term development of a baby's brain from types of music therapy. And then an art exhibit that invites audience participation, how it could spark imagination and connection. But first, meet New York Times best-selling author and St. Louisan James Rollins. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
James Rollins is a master of the serial thriller, but his new series takes us back to the blockbuster world of science fiction fantasy. The Starless Crown gives us heroes and a young heroine who band together through broken landscapes and epic battles to try to stop an apocalypse. And along the way, Rollins reminds us why he's so good at captivating readers. As soon as this first book in the Moonfall saga was released, it hit the New York Times bestseller list.
This is a new world. You built a new world for this novel. Tell us about this. It's the first in a 4-part.
This is book one of the Moonfall saga, and why it's called the Moonfall saga is that the story takes place on a planet that is tidally locked. Our moon is tidally locked around our planet, which means one side of the moon always faces the Earth. One side is internally in darkness, and this planet orbits its sun the same way. One side of the planet is blasted by the sun and burnt. The other side is forever locked in frozen darkness. And when that cataclysm occurred, very few survivors. They fled to the only habitable area of that planet, which is sort of the twilight band between the fire and ice, the temperate area where you can actually sort of survive. And I got the idea for that story initially just because I thought, I read about that in an astrophysicist's book about tidally locked planets. I thought, that's really cool. I thought, can anybody live on that planet? And so I talked to astrophysicists and they said, yeah, you actually could. Because of some of the thermodynamics of the planet, there will be a band that's actually theoretically habitable. So then I thought, well, that'd be a cool place to build a world. And so I started over about a decade doing Post-it notes, scrawled notes, very crude maps. There's beautiful now maps of the book that are rendered by Saria Corcoran, a great cartographer. And so I just sort of piecing it together, playing with it in my head. And then I began to sort of see characters that can occupy that world, and it began sort of snowballing. And I remember approaching my agent about 7.5 years ago. I sent him an email. I still have that email. And I said, I have this idea for this story, but I don't know if it should be a thriller, if I should try to do a modern version of this story, maybe we discover a planet that's like this, or maybe the Earth stops spinning, or something really cool like that. Or should I do a fantasy? And he was like, well, you're known as a thriller writer. Maybe you should just, do what you do best and do the thriller. But they said, then I laid out the story, which I'm not going to tell you all. The big tent poles that are going to hold up the story and how it ends and how it resolves. And he goes, oh, that is so cool. Forget what I just said. Do the fantasy version of that. And so that was sort of the push towards, getting the story started and putting it on paper.
As I was reading it, I was feeling like the excitement of what it must be like to start forming that world and just having it sort of roll through your brain. And
well, that's the greatest thing about being an author is you get to create your own world. And in this world, because that landscape is so harsh, you have these extremes of hot and cold, of ice and fire. You have the areas of the edges that are very extreme. And me being a former veterinarian, I want to make the biology to be authentic. So I consulted with xenobiologists. I leaned on my own background to try to think of how would life evolve in those harsh niches. And so I began building this whole bestiary that's going to fill this book. Some that are very helpful to the populace that's still surviving, others that are quite hostile. And Then I got the idea, wouldn't it be fun to make this book sort of like a scientific naturalist journal? So throughout the book, you're going to see sketches, like the mere bats, these gigantic carnivorous bats, and the other weird creatures that populate that world. So I want you, when you're reading the book, to have this feeling like you're reading an old naturalist's history of this planet, along with this big roller coaster of adventure.
Find out Rollins' connection to Mizzou, how he helps feral cats every month, and what he does for inspiring writers. All that and more in the full interview at hecmedia.org.
HCC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HCC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hccmedia.org.
This story is brought to you in partnership with STL Made.
It actually happened sitting on his couch. Neil and I was intentional about just starting. We knew that if we just did the right things, that the doors were open for us, that these jobs could actually change the lives of our young people.
Mike and I started having a conversation about how do we leverage all of those experiences, those skills, that education that we have obtained, and being able to give that back to students that come from very similar backgrounds as ourselves.
What we actually did is take our lived experiences and bottle it up into a program called Dream Builders for Equity.
Dream Builders for Equity is a nonprofit organization really focused on providing youth with the necessary skills to escape poverty, build wealth, and invest in their future through real estate development and book publishing.
We are transforming Black and brown communities. We're doing it by hiring the youth and minority contractors that are from these communities.
Our students are able to actually learn the necessary skills to rehab homes in North City and to create economic opportunity for all residents in the area. We struggled, we had challenges of not just learning how to earn money, but how do we save money and invest it in a very wise manner. And so we put all of those different experiences that we had into this program. And so what we aim to do through the program is provide career exploration opportunities for our youth, but then also ground them in their community. Help them understand what are the things that they can be learning and the skills they can be learning to create better opportunities within their communities, but also create better opportunities for themselves.
We are very strategic and intentional about providing the current residents with free home renovations.
We really believe in our economic and equitable development principles of centering the community's voices and elevating those voices in order to achieve their desires and their dreams.
We want to change the narrative about North St. Louis City. We're providing that model that can then scale to other communities.
And so the way that this model has been really progressing over time is being exemplified in the Hyde Park neighborhood.
The Hyde Park Neighborhood Association has really seen our work and really are appreciative of our work. So they have recently donated over 3 properties over to the organization.
So overall, in the next 5 years in Hyde Park, we plan to provide $5 million of development with 250 students, as well as invest in over $4 million of dollars with minority contractors in that particular neighborhood.
I think it's very valuable for the community to see us together and to see us together in the long run. And I think that's a part of the power of our organization is people see that we genuinely care about each other. And that's transferring down into our young people and into our contractors as well.
Dream Builders has given me purpose. For a long time, I've been searching for what's my purpose in life? And I no longer have to ask that question of myself. I know what that is. And so when I show up, when I wake up every day, I want to put my best foot forward, not for myself, but for the community and for the youth and the people that are really relying on us to make a change in the city.
Visit VSTL.com for more stories like this one.
You just never know where that spark is going to come from.
We're putting a human touch to everything through the vehicle of art. We give them the ability to hope.
All it takes is a few notes to capture Ayla Campbell's attention. Ayla has developed a love for music ever since she arrived 16 weeks early, weighing less than 2 pounds.
Couldn't hold her, but I could put my finger on her back.
It was in this neonatal intensive care unit at MU Healthcare that Ayla received her first visit from music therapist Emily Pivovarnik.
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I'll never forget the first time that we sang to Ayla. It was just me and my voice.
Her heart rate would just go down and her oxygen was going up. If someone had told me that this could happen just from singing, I wouldn't have believed it.
As Ayla grew, Emily would add instruments. It's a specific music therapy intervention called Multimodal Neurological Enhancement, or MNE.
It was not rare to go into Ayla's room and see her oxygen saturation in the 70s and see her heart rate sky high, and just to sing and to see her just kind of calm down. Her oxygen's going up. She looks calmer.
The therapy combines music, gentle touch, and rocking, designed to help a premature baby's brain develop.
We get them before their brain is fully developed. And so it makes sense that whatever therapy we can target while that brain is developing would help them.
Critically ill infants in the NICU are receiving medical treatment that's required to save their lives. A lot of unexpected stimuli. We want to give them positive, developmentally appropriate stimulation as well. When a baby goes home, the second they walk out the door, they're going to hear the car horn, the car radio, all kinds of things. So we do start introducing the guitar, the ukulele, some little shakers and things like that.
Emily has seen positive effects on Ayla and countless babies in the NICU, helping them eat better, regulate their stress levels, and adjust to stimulation. So Emily is part of a team launching a research project to look at the long-term effects of multimodal neurological enhancement.
I'm working with a colleague at the University of Georgia, Dr. Evans. There's a lot of really good research showing decreased length of stay, increased weight gain, that decreased stress behavior, decreased pain perception. There's a lot of really good information about that in our research literature already, but we want to look longitudinally at this data and see if there are long-term effects of this intervention on kids' neurodevelopment.
After leaving the hospital, babies enrolled in the study will receive neurodevelopmental testing for 2 years. About 135 babies will be involved in the research. Typically, multimodal starts at about 32 weeks of age for twice a week. Over the past 8 months in the NICU, Ayla has grown and developed. As the Campbells prepared to head home, they know how music will always be part of Ayla's life.
We can all learn the same song and sing it to Ayla and, do instruments together. It'll definitely be part of the family.
Bonding to a shared beat.
And now, Ayla, how much we love you. You make us smile each and every day.
Yay! You did it! How the pandemic inspired an award-winning blues album. Later on Spotlight.
My name is Stephanie Weisberg, and I'm a curator here at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation. The exhibition is titled Assembly Required. The exhibition includes 9 artists and collectives, and each of the artists invites members of the public to participate directly in the creation of the artwork. The artworks on view that you see here behind me are objects that were produced by the artists, but they're not considered finished until members of the public come in and interact with them. Each of the artists produced work under distinct social and political contexts from 1959 until the present moment. And in fact, there are 7 different countries represented among the artists on view. But they all came out of a sense of urgency around bringing people together through collective action and gathering in space as a means of sparking dialogue and creating new ways of seeing the world. And the artists saw this as a very powerful way that art could function as a resistance tool against oppression. There are many artists in the world today and over the past several decades that invite members of the public to directly engage or participate in artworks. And so in order to make the determination of how artists would fit into this show in particular, I was thinking about artists that issue that invitation specifically out of a sense of social or political urgency. It felt important that the invitations for activation be something that people could actually realize in the space. So many artworks that one might encounter in a museum setting that relate to the notion of participation, an artist has invited members of the public to co-produce something with them, but then what you're viewing is the finished product. So if an artist invited members of the public to co-produce a quilt in a workshop, you might see a quilt. But what you see less often are works that actually invite members of the public throughout the course of the exhibition to handle, shape, build, manipulate, and intellectually engage with the works in creative ways. And so each of the works on view either issue this direct invitation and are available for members of the public to handle directly, or they show documentation of people engaging directly with the artwork rather than just a finished product. People are bringing with them their experiences in the world in the current moment in terms of how they're interpreting the work. I've heard from people that have activated works in our main gallery space by the German artist Franz Erhard Walter, which involves unfolding a textile element and physically interacting with it in some way. So one element, for instance, includes two people which are asked to stand at far ends of a canvas loop so that they can just see each other's eyes. And I've heard people say that after leaving the museum, they go out into the world, and this experience sparks their imagination or makes them think more deeply about how they're connected to other people and what it means to experience and be near each other after these past 2 years of isolation. This exhibition has been in the making since 2019, and it originally was conceived of as a moment to reflect on the questions that artists have brought to the table in terms of how art can play a role in bringing us together and responding to very difficult political contexts. But in the intervening years, the pandemic caught us all by surprise, and the show ended up having to be delayed. And in many ways, I think it's been richer because of the intervening time, and I hope that people come out and enjoy themselves, have a moment of reflection, a moment of playfulness, a moment of optimism, and to think about how artists open up space for helping us see the world in new ways. Assembly Required is open through July 31st, and people can visit our website, pulitzerarts.org, to find out more information about programming for this exhibition.
HEC has been bringing you positive programming and award-winning content for decades. Arts, education, culture, in-depth discussions, films, and more. All in one place, hecmedia.org.
With his trademark blend of Mississippi River St. Louis blues, Texas guitar slinger blues, and a bit of Southern country rock, the music of Jeremiah Johnson is the heartbeat of the common man.
I'm just a regular guy, man, blue-collar guy. I'd never really seen my life as much, much more than, doing like labor-type jobs and construction-type jobs, and I've just been taking the music sort of in the same respect, hard work ethic and trying my best to just do the best I can. I'll trade you a diamond for a gallon of gasoline. You got your hands in my pocket. You trying to steal from me, you and me. I used to ride all night down that highway. I used to ride all night long.
And that work ethic, along with his multi-talents, are being recognized. Roof Records international recording artist Jeremiah Johnson is nominated for the coveted Blues Music Association Award for Best Blues Rock Album. Unemployed, highly annoyed.
Unemployed and highly annoyed.
Honestly, I was completely shocked to find out that I was nominated for my first BMA. Honestly, after all these years of performing and writing music and putting out CDs, it feels like a victory for me, you know, like I finally was recognized worldwide for having an outstanding recording and that, so I'm just beyond thankful for that.
It was the global shutdown that inspired the BMA-nominated album.
You know, it's pretty cool because that entire record was recorded in like 10 days. And it was done during the pandemic. Every song on that record, the lyrics are all about kind of what we were struggling with. For me, I had just came off of a European tour and had realized that I had 130-something dates scheduled for that 2020. And barely got back over to the United States before they locked me down over there. In addition to losing all those tour dates and what was supposed to be the biggest year of my career, I had just released an album, debuted #3 and then hit #1 on the Billboard Blues charts, which is great. But the entire world shut down, literally. It was sort of like a massive gut punch, you know. You worked real hard to put this album together. You saw that it was going to do well, and I had all the shows lined up to go out and support the release. And yeah, it was really hard. You know, music is about bringing people together and realizing that all of a sudden now I'm like one of the least important jobs.
But for Jeremiah Johnson fans, music is far from being the least important job. During this time, Unemployed Highly Annoyed debuted at #4 on the Billboard Blues chart, with 2 of his albums in the top 5 in the same year. The love for his loyal fans inspired Jeremiah to bring his worldwide fan base into his home with his virtual Songbook Sundays.
The virtual Songbooks performances from home are something that the fans kind of started asking me to do. It focuses more on the lyrics and just me kind of where I am when I write the songs. And people seem to have really enjoyed it. They've been successful. We get a lot of people who watch them, and people have donated to help me out. It's a nice opportunity for me to be able to showcase a lot of the different types of songs I can do too, because I have bluesy songs, but I also write stuff that leans more country. I have songs that lean more southern rock. I have the jazz background because I did study jazz for a few years in college.
His varied music roots fuels his signature creative songwriting.
I have a lot of different influences. I did live in Texas for 10 years and played there. And then I've been up here in St. Louis most of my life. And trying to bring the two together. I'm currently working on 2 different albums of 2 different style of music. One an Americana and one a blues record, blues rock record for Roof Records. Because I think I have both to offer. So it's exciting.
Inspired by the birth of his son, the lyrics flew naturally while composing the song Leo Stone.
Better call the doctor, mama's on the way. Overwhelming joy and pride to give you my name. And I don't.
Becoming a father and having this little boy in my life now has changed everything about the way I see the world. And of course, it's affected my music too. And to see him now, he sees me, and monkey see, monkey do. He's got a little guitar, and he's really starting to show that he gets it, and he's seeing what I'm doing. This is the first child I've had. When you finally have a child, you realize the world's a little different to you. You're no longer living day to day like I was before. You're living for the future.
Leo Stone, so glad you're home. Kind of love never fades away.
Catch Jeremiah Johnson live in the Lou this month. And now here's Jeremiah Johnson with the title track from his BMA-nominated blues rock album, Unemployed, Highly Annoyed.
Cut the hell down, stop freaking out, have a little faith in the human race. Don't work, don't leave, don't breathe, don't move. It's full-blown chaos, it's doom and gloom. You better put it on lockdown, we're on the brink. Do what you're told, don't even think. You can't count on freedom if you don't have a choice. Unemployed and highly annoyed. settle down, stop freaking out, have a little faith in the human race. Don't touch, don't grab, don't hug, don't kiss. It's a money grab, who's on that list? You better wash your hands, don't touch your face. You better get in line to get in that place. You can't call it freedom if you don't have a choice. Unemployed and highly annoyed. Why you bugging? Rona, why you bugging? Rona, why you bugging? Rona, why you bugging?
Next week, inside the St. Louis Art Museum's latest exhibit, Paintings on Stone. Plus, how a cookbook turned into a story of relationships and overcoming racial biases. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.